Loving self didn't feel like a foreign concept until loving self didn't feel like an act of defiance. And if I am being quite honest.
This is Izzy Lala Podcast, a space where art inspires and uplifts and where artists create dialogue about poetry that transcends the page. I'm Izzy Lala, and today I have J.Rowe, a poet, an activist, an educator, and she's here with me. Welcome, J.Rowe.
Hello.
So she's going to be reading her first poem, Woman.
So first of all, thanks, Izzy, for having me. I love what you're doing, and I'm super excited to be here. And yeah, without further ado, I'll just get into it. This first piece is entitled Woman. She carried burdened body like forgotten curiosity. Entertained lightning bolts with holy thoughts, sent sentiments of goodbye to God's earlobe, and every night, before insomnia kicked in, before green Novocaine vanished into thin air, she bent knees, pressed pretty palms together, prayed for forgotten days of designated self-destruction. For her, self-love was a mere recollection of the good days that once tripped over each other. Was a mirage that could only be lusted after but never realized, so she spoke. Until words once lost in translation became unbound, until loving self didn't feel like a foreign concept, until loving self didn't feel like an act of defiance. And if I am being quite honest, beauty still feels like vacation. Has never felt like home. I've not yet learned to recognize my own elegance. I still harness smiles the way roses captivate caskets, painfully perfected to appear pretty, drop dead gorgeous even woman. Never noticed but always needed. Never enough yet always the exception to the rule. Must sit up straight, stand tall, press kink out of hair, must silence self for she need not take liberties with loose lips. Woman must face front line and bend spine, must be security but never secure, must endure, must endure, must endure. And if I am being quite honest, I fear hope's elusiveness. I've not yet learned to trust love, for love has always been a rebel in search of its origins, in search of smoldering epiphanies or even daydreams. Woman had to be subtle sand in time continuum, had to recollect quicksand millennium, had to carefully contemplate every moment as if the future did not exist, as if the past would continue to be relived. And it was, and it was, and it was, and I broke, and I broke, and I broke. Woman had to learn how to be a beast. Had to learn to unfold horizons and recall divine glory, had to learn to be streetlights and wonder, had to learn to be rose, not casket. Had to learn how to celebrate small victories, like smiling or breathing or being here.
Wow. Yeah, that one's super inspirational, I think, for just any woman. And the main thing that it reminds me of, or the main thing that I get from it, is this process of self-love. And I don't know, that's what I got from it. But what are you trying to convey in this poem?
Yeah, I think really a lot of my work, really the last year or two, has been kind of talking about the journey to self-love. So I think this piece really hits on that. And also just kind of recognizing, like, how difficult it is to be a woman. We're expected to kind of have it all together, hold down the fort, raise a family. But also there's like this restriction on us being able to express how we feel. I think oftentimes when we do, it gets kind of attributed to just, being a woman, being in our feelings. And it in doing so, it kind of minimizes what we actually have to deal with on the day-to-day basis. So this poem is really just me trying to kind of work through that and also remember the importance of self-love. And also, I think I've really been talking about this lately, especially this past year, but also recognizing that you're a beast. You're a beast, and it's in you, and it is your duty to fight for your happiness. So I think, this piece kind of touches on those things.
Yeah, totally. To be honest, the lines that stuck out to me were prayed for forgotten days of designated self-destruction. For her, self-love was a mere recollection of the good days that once tripped over each other. So to me, I felt a lot of that in these lines, and a lot of just the learning, that goes along with, really reflecting on yourself and maybe your past or, past mistakes even.
Yeah.
How did it feel to write those lines?
Oh man, I'm not going to lie. This poem was a very emotional piece. Mm-hmm. I think when I wrote those lines, I was in a space of understanding that it was kind of me realizing, like, as much as I say I have self-love, I don't. Mm-hmm. And I'm working on that. And I can recall the days when I did feel that love for myself. And sometimes when you go through shit, whether it be a breakup or a loss of some sort, you forget how to love yourself. And I kind of got to a point where I was realizing, like, there is so much work to do here. Mm-hmm. In order to get back to that self-love, you also have to address the fact that, you have a past and you need to work through it. Yeah. So, it could be, I think, the designated days of self-destruction, it can be really easy to kind of concede to being stuck in that, right? To just, this negative self-talk, it kind of becomes an automatic thing if you're not being intentional about filling yourself up with love and remembering the dope shit that's inside of you. So, it again is up to you to crawl out of it. And I'm not saying, like, I know there are a lot of other factors. I'm not talking about, mental health or things like that. But what I am saying is you do, to a certain extent, have the power to control, your actions. Are you putting yourself in position to find joy? Mm-hmm. And that, I think, is what the designated days of self-destruction line kind of came from. Right.
Yeah. Well, I love that. That's super important, I think, to remember, is just the power that we hold as women, as people, but particularly women. I think we do forget, that power. And I think it's important just as artists, and as you, since you're an artist who speaks on the topic, whether it's being a woman or being a Black woman, I think that you give off the essence of empowering women, and that's important, I think, in art. And I think that that's one of the benefits that poetry can do, is really empower people, through words. Mm-hmm. Other thing that I was, because I can imagine, any girl or any woman, can relate to this feeling of, this negative image of self, or to past, mistakes or whatnot, and just the process of learning self-love. The ending line, so when you said you had to learn how to celebrate small victories, and one of the things that I took from that, like the smiling, like feeling, like breathing, like being here. Why did you end with that line?
I think, again, like, sometimes we get so caught up in what's not going right that we forget to be grateful for what is. Mm-hmm. Something such as your life, like your existence.
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, I think sometimes we forget our magic and that your existence is a gift to other people, right? And I think that's something that I love about people is that we have this, everyone has their unique sense of self, whether or not they want to acknowledge those things that make them unique. There is something inside of everyone that's a little bit different. And so I think, again, once you start to acknowledge those things that make you, you become a gift to others. You become an opportunity for someone to learn, right? And so I think that being here line is about that. I think smiling is a small miracle. Every time someone smiles, it is a small miracle. And I say that to say that there's a lot going on. I mean, really, truly, especially the last year or two, there's a lot going on. But if we can find little reasons to be happy, and if that manifests as a smile, like that's such a reason to celebrate. Mm-hmm. And your smile, again, is a gift to somebody else, because we know that smiles are contagious and universal. Everyone understands what a smile represents. Yeah. So I think, just acknowledging those things, those small things, and those are small things that we take for granted every day.
Yeah.
But if we can acknowledge those little things, those things in themselves become empowering.
Yeah.
That's kind of what those little endings are about for me.
You recognize the little things, that are small miracles. You recognize these things and mm-hmm. you reflect on that as, that I am grateful for that, So I just treasure that gift in this poem. I think it's a huge gift. And another thing is, you said in your bio that you believe that poetry is alchemy. How has this poem been alchemy for you?
Yeah, thank you. I think art in general I think it's taking experiences that have been hard. I think it's taking pain and turning it into something people can either relate to or learn from, or both. Mm-hmm. I think when I hear a poem and I'm able to relate to it, it is so validating. And in turn becomes empowering. I don't feel so alone. And that's honestly why I started writing poetry. The first time I went to an open mic and I heard someone do a spoken word piece, I remember thinking to myself, oh, shit, I am not the only one that feels that. Okay. And I felt better instantly. It's healing. Mm-hmm. It's the process of healing. And I think that is taking pain, turning it into something beautiful. And that in itself is alchemy.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that. Well, I guess my last question for you would be, what is your message to women who may be struggling with self-love or who may be relearning that process of self-love?
Ooh, that is such a great question. First of all, I want to just say I am too. I am too. It is a process. I know sometimes it almost feels like, people are like, you just love yourself and it's easy. Oh, okay. All right. Now I just love myself. I woke up today and now I love myself. It doesn't always work that way. It should, you want it to work that way. But sometimes you have to fight for self-love. And during that fight, those battles, it is important that you remember how strong and dope you are, that you are still standing here, So I think, my biggest message to women in general is to just, again, remember how strong you are. I mean, we're dealing with things on the day-to-day basis that men don't have to deal with, especially women of color. Right. So, that would be my biggest thing, would be to just, remember that you're not alone in this, that a lot of people are struggling with this concept, and that it might take time, but the journey is so worth it, and every day, for me at least, that self-love becomes a little bit easier.
Yeah.
Hang in there. I guess that's my big message. Just hang in there.
That's beautiful, especially for right now, just those few couple words, well, hang in there, in these times, but yeah, I thank you for reading that poem, and for extending that and letting it live. So I just wanted to ask what you're currently working on.
Sure.
And where people can find you.
Holler! Okay, so I'm really excited. I am currently working on 2 projects. I'm working on my EP that is going to be called The Distortion of Stillness. And so I could talk a little bit about that. So that project is a bit more softer than I think people are normally used to with me. I think I'm kind of known for my punchy pieces, my social justice, like let's get in there and burn it down. But this EP is really kind of just talking about, my journey to self-love, specifically for me, going through a really hard breakup, kind of feeling broken, feeling very lost, and it's the story of climbing out of that. So not only kind of working through that, making amends with something that you thought was supposed to last forever, but then also remembering, again, going back to that, remembering who you were before all of that happened, and also being able to just imagine where you're going to be once you get through this. So it's kind of about that heartbreak, crawling out of it, and then being able to find joy, and really putting your effort into that. And so I'm really excited to be sharing that softer side of me. I collaborated with Ferris. He's awesome. He worked with Brandon Leak from AGT. And so this project has kind of a jazzy kind of it's a kind of a fusion, a jazzy, folky vibe, but I think it's going to be something that's going to be fun to listen to. I think a lot of people will be able to relate to it. So I'm really excited for it to be done. So we're hoping to get that finished and, on all the cool platforms by the end of February.
Exciting.
Yeah, I'm so excited for it. And it was definitely new territory for me. And it was kind of just, it's really cool to see what happens when you allow yourself to step outside of your comfort zone and take a chance. And I think that's kind of what this EP has been for me. And so the second project that I'm working on, I'm working with a couple of MCs, and we're really trying to shed light on the state of America. So then I kind of put my social justice hat back on, and that is going to be a really fun project. It's a really cool group. We all have our independent projects, but we're coming together to really just create. And it's almost, I called this yesterday, Friday, we had a call, and I said, I think we're like the poetic Wu-Tang Clan. So I'm really excited. There's this an immense amount of talent working on this project. And so I think one of the first tracks we're going to release will be entitled Aliens. And so we were kind of inspired by the classic hip hop song 93 Till Infinity. So that kind of inspired us. And then, in terms of that title, Aliens, it's, sometimes when you're a person of color, it's really hard to feel like this place is your home. Right. And so I think this project will be about that journey, finding home in the middle of the struggle, and then, just being comfortable in your own skin, learning how to do that. And I was very intentional about using the word learning, because I think the way a lot of institutions are set up, negative and brown or black are almost synonymous in a lot of ways. And I'm talking in the educational system, I'm talking politics, I'm talking pop culture. So really just learning how to find home in the middle of the struggle and owning all the things that make you you and letting those things shine. So I'm so excited about these projects. I'm not sure how long the alien one is taking. We're trying not to be too rigid about it. We're really just trying to let things happen organically. So, I mean, I'll keep you posted. So that's what I'm working on. I'm pumped. Yeah, it'll be good. So yeah, but in terms of where to find me, you can find me on IG, Rowe.writes. Add me or follow me, I'll follow you back. I'm on Facebook, but I'm not on there too often. Jeanette Sim. And then also I do have a website, which is rowewrites.org. So tap in. I always want to hear from you. Even if it's feedback, constructive feedback, because I'm still learning. So yeah.
I love that. Super cool. So glad to have you on. Thank you for being here with us, with me, and we'll talk later. This is Izzy Lala Podcast. Find me, Izzy Lala, on Instagram under Izzy Lala, and be sure to check out izzylala.com for more.